let's talk about Mikel Arteta. Yep. So yeah, this is gonna be his fifth full season or his fourth full season at Arsenal. Um, just let's look at some of the positive that he's brought to the club. Obviously, like, even before then, we finished eighth in his first season, eighth again. Then we finished fifth. Then we finished second, competing for the title. He brought Champions League football back. We've won two community shields, and we've got an FA Cup under Arteta. So yeah, let me think about some of the things that he's done here. First thing is that he changed the culture and the mentality around winning. For me, I feel like, of course, that's one of the most important things that he's brought to the club already. Because, like towards the end of towards the end of Wenger being here, it got to a point when obviously we were struggling. The fan base was toxic. Some of the players were, not performing as they were supposed to play. The environment in the locker room and stuff like that was not adequate. Things were not going as we wanted to be. Like, that's not how a winning dressing room is supposed to be like. If you're a winning club, you have a dressing room with players who are thinking the same way, players who are one-minded, and the main aim is to win. But it seemed like a lot of things were just going on in the dressing room where it was more like we're just there to have fun, there for the vibes and stuff like that. So that's the biggest thing Arteta's done here, is that he changed the culture immediately. Straight away changed the culture, brought a winning mentality here. Sold or let go of the players who didn't think the same way that he thought or he aspired us to be or to think and stuff like that. Completion the mentality. You can see you can see already that even though we haven't won the league title or the Champions League yet or anything like that under him, the way that we fight back when we're losing and the amount of games where even just look at the United game, for example. The moment we conceded, we went straight and scored again. And you've seen the amount of late winners that we've had and the amount of comebacks we've done, whereby yes, we might be slow in a certain game and stuff like that, not performing as we should perform, but the moment we go down, we immediately step it up and try to win. So it's like there's no, like, if you think about before, like years before even Arteta came and stuff like that, there was always a feeling that once things were starting to go bad and it just became even worse. And it's like we were never able to, stand back up. We were never able to put the pressure back on. We were never able to get back up and fight again in terms of trying to score again and things like that. But you can see already that under Arteta, that's changed because the mentality is completely different. The players don't want to lose. Even if it means we draw a game, the players don't want to lose at all. And they always step it up the moment we go down. And it's always a case of it's only a matter of time before we score. Look at Nelson's last minute goal against United, against Bournemouth. Look at the game against United. Just several games like that whereby we concede and straight away we go and try and get the goal back. Or straight away, or we're drawing a game or we're losing the game in the last minute and we get a goal there, or we're forcing it. Think about Jorginho against Aston Villa, just little things like that where you can see that the mentality is different, that the players don't want to lose. We don't have a loser mentality in the locker room anymore. The players are all aiming for the same goal. You can see they all strive to win. They all want to win. And even if we're not the best, even if like last season, for example, let's say we're not the best team in the land because that was Man City because they won the title. But you can see that the players continue to fight. So that's the mentality that I'm saying. That's the change in the culture. That's the change in the mentality whereby it's not like once something bad happens, the players are putting their heads down and it's game over from there. That's not been the case on Arteta, and that's something brilliant that he's brought to the team. The other thing that I did want to address also is that he's brought a young and a quality squad to the team. Look at it from the back already. Gabriel is young. Ramsdale is young. Raya's relatively young for a goalkeeper. The same with Ben White is young, Saliba, the same as well. Even when you look at like Kiwu, who are up and coming, and then you look at Tomiyasu, who for me is a guy who's getting really underrated. He's a very good player. My main issue with him is just the fitness. But for a player who's like your third, fourth option and things like that at the back, very good player, very versatile player, can play centre back, can play left back, can play right back. And people forget he's just 24 years old. I don't know, maybe because he looks older, I don't know, but people need to remember that he's a young player. He's not an older player and a centre back quality player. Very good in duels, very good in 1v1, very versatile, fantastic on the ball. And that's our backup level player, you see. So we're continuing to build a very young squad. Of course, we've got Declan Rice in the midfield, the 105 million man. We've got Odegaard, who's young. We've got Fabio Vieira, who looks like he's starting to develop and starting to build on his frame and starting to get to where he's at already this season. Every time he's coming to the team, you already see him what he's doing already stepping up already, and showing the quality that he has, which is that his final balls are fantastic. He's got fantastic final balls, and he's starting to show that already this season. So, with that said already, we continue to build on that. We've got Martinelli, of course, Martinelli. We've got Saka. We've got Gabriel Jesus, who are young, in Nketiah. We've got so much young players. Havertz, who just came in, and things like that. And he's built a very young, quality squad with all the right mentality, which is that they come here because they want to win. You look at Havertz came in, the first thing he said was that Arsenal are performing, like he's watched from afar and seen that Arsenal are a very competitive team, and they want to win, and they're heading in the right direction, which is why he came here. So that already is what you're already seeing. He's building a young squad. We continue to build young, which means we're gonna continue to peak. Like they're gonna peak together, build up together, get better, build that winning mentality together, and things like that, and grow as a team. So already that's a complete difference to what we had before, where when Arteta came, we had the likes of Ozil, Aubameyang, Lacazette, all these others that were old in the team and things like that. So we're building a young core with a winning mentality and quality in the squad. So already that's already an improvement on what Arteta's already done here already. The next thing I want to say as well again is that what Arteta's brought here, the positive, is that as you saw last season, we competed for the title. Of course, there were people saying that this season is the one we're meant to compete for the title, not last season. So it shows that we're ahead of schedule already under Arteta, which is true, of course. We're ahead of schedule. We didn't expect to compete for the title last season, but it happened. And in that title run, the amount of games we won, the run that we went on for a young team, yes, it didn't work out to how we wanted in the end. We bottled it towards the end. That's fine. However, we showed like the fact that we went on such a long run for such a young team to keep on winning and winning and winning, which is not easy to do, and kept on going and over until the end when things fell apart, shows that it's in them. These players which it goes back to the mentality aspect of it, where the players, even in games where they weren't performing, they kept showing up. The end of the season for me, I don't think it was more of a case of that we just lost our heads. I think it was more of a case of we became predictable and we didn't have a plan B. We had no other way to play. And of course, Arteta is a young coach himself and he needs to develop more options, which is why I did that video where I was talking about how Arteta's experimenting this season. I think the reason why he's experimenting is because he wants to give us more ways to win games. He wants to improve the team, develop us, and give us more ways. Therefore, when we arrive in these situations again, we don't fall to the same issues that happened this season whereby last season, whereby we didn't have no plan B. We didn't know what to do. We were lost and we just kept trying the same thing, which wasn't working, and our season fell from there. And as I was saying already, of course, that's another positive here, is that he brought us to competing again, which we hadn't done in so long. I mean, we wasn't even in the top four. He brought Champions League football back and he won an FA Cup as well, which is really good. However, some of the negatives under Arteta, the first thing I would say is I feel like some of the young players that have come into the team from the youth system, from the academy and stuff like that, they've all been the ones who've already been introduced into the squad already. The likes of Saka, the likes of Martinelli, Nelson and stuff like that. They've all been here. We're yet to see him, introduce more young players from the academy, and I feel like it's always important. It doesn't matter obviously, the most important thing is winning, competing for titles, competing for the big trophies. But it's always nice for a team that's competitive to have players coming out of the academy. Yes, we already have them in the first 11 already, but I feel like we need to start. We need to see Arteta himself introduce someone. He brought Nwaneri and gave him his debut, but he hasn't played since. We need to see him start to promote more people, and hopefully, because in terms of our academy, the ones I can see that look like they could actually do something, Nwaneri, the likes of Lewis Skelly, but obviously these lot are still young, so hopefully that's something that he'll be looking towards in terms of bringing these guys in slowly. And Patino, who for me, he's at the right age. I don't see why Patino should have gone on loan, especially when Smith Rowe was here. But we know Arteta doesn't trust Smith Rowe at the moment, you see. So it was like, in that sense, maybe Smith Rowe should have gone on loan, and you'd have kept Patino, who's performing on loan right now, as someone who could have been an alternative to Havertz. You see where I say Havertz is playing like a second striker from that position. Patino is more of the profile that I'm talking about in terms of someone who can support us in the first and the second phase of build-up play, which is a completely different profile to what Havertz gives us in that role. Someone like that, because obviously at the moment, Zinchenko is the one who's giving us this profile where he can help us to build in the first phase and build the ball out to the final third. However, there's nothing wrong with also having someone who is in the final third that can drop deep and give you that quality in the first and the second phase. We saw this with McAllister at Brighton, and we saw this with Gundogan for Man City, whereby the guy who's in the final third can also at times drop back, support you with build up, especially when teams are pressing you really well. And of course, you have five to help you build up, but sometimes you might want to have an extra guy. If they go man to man, you might want to have an extra player drop down to support with the build up play. Of course, Odegaard does this at times, but Coutinho could have been someone who would have been an alternative to Havertz, who could have done this, because after Havertz, the only other sub or after Havertz and Odegaard, the only other midfield sub off the bench is Fabio Vieira. That's if we're not counting Smith Rowe. So I don't see why Coutinho couldn't have stayed, and at least that would have shown that Arteta, is relying on the youth players and bringing them in and promoting them and allowing them to have a chance in the first team. You see, so that's something that we need to see from Arteta. We need to see him start to promote more kids out of the academy and start to use them a lot more, especially when you're struggling for depth defensively, and there's some fullbacks in the academy who people are raving about and stuff like that, who have been in the first team picture. Let's see them come into the team and see what they can offer us in the Carling Cup, stuff like that, or Carabao Cup and stuff like that. So yeah, the next thing I want to talk about again, or that some of the negatives is our European performances from him. For me, I'll chalk it down to even though there's been periods whereby we've actually used our first team in those games, I'll still chalk it down to the fact that I don't feel like the players took that Europa League seriously enough. Yes, because you can't go through a whole group stage whereby you're like, the moment you start flip-flopping with the first team, sometimes you use parts of the first team, maybe you use one of Saliba and use another different and Holding together, or you use Gabriel and use Hold, you don't play the first team. Whenever you start to make this flipping around, or you start to change the goalkeeper, already in the players' minds already, they're already not taking this competition serious already. But they're only going to start taking it serious once we get into the knockout stages or closer in that sense, and it's like, the feeling is not there, the vibe is not there. They're not really, they're not really taking it as seriously. If the players are not taking it seriously, the fans are not taking it seriously. We're not going to push as hard as we can, because you can't tell me we're performing in the Premier League and nearly winning a title, but we can't perform in the Europa League against some teams that are not really all that. You see what I mean? So it's like, I'll take it. I'll take our European performances under Arteta with more a case of the lack of experience that we've had from the team, from the coach as well, and also from the way we've not taken it seriously enough. But this season, the Champions League, straight away, I'm going to say already, and I need, there's not that many great teams at this point. You've got the likes of Bayern, PSG, Man City, Real Madrid and Barca. They're not at their best, but they are really good still. You got those teams. I feel like Arsenal should be one of those teams that are competing for the Champions League this season. I'm not saying that we need to win it the same way we didn't win the title last season, but we competed. This season we need to compete. Of course, we need to get out the group. That's for a fact. And if we get a favourable draw in the knockout in the knockout stages, round of 16 quarterfinals, we need to go as far. But what we can't be doing is getting a good draw in the knockout stages, maybe the round of 16 or quarterfinals, and then flopping against a team that we shouldn't be losing to. We shouldn't be losing. We should be competing with the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, teams like that, Bayern Munich. We should be competing with them. PSG. The only team that should be even more difficult than that is Man City, because they just won it right now. We can obviously see the level of the quality, the money they've spent on their team, and the experience of just winning it as well. But otherwise, we should be competing with any other team in the Champions League. There shouldn't be a situation whereby we're getting blown away by another team in Europe. That should never happen. That should not happen this season at all. So for me, Arteta needs to show an improvement in how we approach these European games, and the players are the same way also. And also, we've not won a cup since the FA Cup. I'm not counting the Community Shield, but we haven't won a cup since the FA Cup. So already we need to see something, at least another FA Cup. Not too concerned about the Carabao Cup at all, but we need to get an FA Cup in there. I'm not saying we should go for Champions League, but another cup is needed. A Premier League title is needed, Another thing that I do want to mention again as well is the amount of money that we spend as a team. Of course, last season we wasn't expecting to win the title. However, we did compete for the title. We showed that as a team we're strong enough to compete for a title. We showed we have the quality, we have the players, we have the coach who's able to compete for long spells in the season if we don't bottle towards the end of the season. So for me, this season already, we need to compete for the title. That's a fact. It's long enough. We've spent enough money. We spend enough money to be able to expect to compete for the title. It shouldn't be a case whereby we're still talking about, phase A, phase Z, phase this, or whatever the case is. Now we need to start competing for the title. There's no more excuses anymore. We have the players. The manager's had the money. He's been able to pick his players. He's been able to sell whoever he didn't want to sell. He's been able to recruit players. He's been able to do all these things. So now we must compete for a title. It's been a long time since we won a trophy. 2020 has been three years. It's going to be 4 years next season if we don't win another trophy again. So FA Cup for me, we should be competing for that. A league title, we should be competing for that as well. And we should be expecting to win a title this season. The other thing also again is there's a bunch of different things that a bunch of like negative things I'll mention again in terms of things that needs to improve this season. Let's talk about how we've ended the season. Look at some of the seasons that we've under Arteta. We've seen when we were trying to get to the top four and we bottled it towards the end of that season and we finished fifth instead. Then we were going for the title, bottled it again at the end of the season and we finished second. So there's always, in the last 3 seasons, there's been this thing towards the end of the season whereby we seem to fall apart towards the end. We'll perform so well for the majority of the season and we'll seem to be able to reach our goal, which is either to finish in the top 4 or if we're competing for a title. But then we get to the end of the season and it's like we're lost for ideas, like we don't know what we're doing anymore towards the end. And I still feel like it's like when you think about not having a plan B, like we had no plan B last season. We were bottling the title, we're losing games here, we're drawing there, we're dropping points, and we just kept playing the same way consistently over and over again until the season was completely over. So that can't happen again this season. It's happened 3 seasons already. It can't be the case again for another season. It can't happen again. Whereby we can't be losing. We lost out on top 4 for that. We lost out on first place for that. Now we're in this season again, where, like I've said, we should be expecting to win a title. It can't be another thing again that happens in another season again. So for me, that bottling towards the end of the season needs to go. That's not the right mentality to have at all. In terms of like having a plan B already, I can already see that Arteta's already starting to experiment. You see him already experimenting this season with bringing in new ways of playing, new other options, like Havertz off the bench, or Havertz being a second striker. I mean, Partey being a right back, Fabio Vieira, what he's able to offer. Just different avenues like that. We haven't Trossard for the whole season this time rather than just from January. So we have a bunch of plan Bs there already, and I feel like that's what Arteta needs to all of those things need to be effective enough whereby towards the end of the season, if we're starting to struggle with our plan A, these options need to be something that's put in place that's actually going to support us and help us to be able to compete, rather than us just going with a plan A and not being able to do anything. So for me already, I feel like that's something that's important for us to be able to change going forward next season or going forward into this season. The last thing I'll say that needs to improve again is our negative approach at times during games, whereby like it's even happened this season already. Like I think against Fulham, where you're winning again 1-0, you get towards the end of the season, and then we start making like negative subs. Like why do we always feel like last season was the same stuff with bring and hold in and go to 5 at the back, wherever. There's no reason whatsoever for us to be allowing pressure. There's no reason for us to be inviting pressure from the opposition, because the only thing that's going to do is you're giving a team who didn't have enough chances, you're now allowing them to move forward. You see what I mean? Like once you start making defensive subs, you're technically just allowing them to move forward. So then all that work that I would have had to do in terms of building a ball at the back, beating our press and getting to the final third before then being able to create chances, that all of that has been bypassed and they're just in front of our box. This happened against Palace, this happened against Fulham as well. And this was slightly happening against United, where we're just inviting pressure. That needs to stop for me. Like it can't happen. That would affect you in the most important of games, especially in the Champions League. That can't happen. You can't let the best teams. You can't invite the best team into pressure. Once we're ahead, we need to keep on with that pressure and try to get another goal. We get another goal, keep on with the pressure, and try to get another goal again. Like they say, the best form of attack is defense, and there's nothing wrong with our defense when we're attacking. We're very organized. Even whilst on the ball, the players are already in their positions already. Our pressing is very good, so I don't see the reason why we go ahead, then we stop playing and we start inviting pressure and allowing the teams to attack us. All you do is just give them more time on the ball, more space, and you allow them to keep on crossing until they eventually get a goal. So for me already, that's a no-no. Like that's something that we shouldn't be seeing at all this season. But yeah, all in all for me, from here on going now, I hear everything that's been said about Arteta. completely. Okay. For me, already, his time here has already been a massive positive. Even if he's not the one who brings us the Premier League trophy, even if he's not the one who brings us the Champions League trophy, even if he's not the one that's going to be the manager that brings us all that trophy, for me, the work he's done here already, for me, he's already excellent already for what he's done in terms of making us a team that's competitive. You think back to Real Madrid. I know a lot of people might think Mourinho didn't do too well in Real Madrid because of what they were expecting. But if you think about the work he did at Real Madrid, they hadn't won a cup in years. He won them a trophy. They hadn't reached the Champions League semi-finals in years. He got them to the Champions League finals every single year until he left. They hadn't won a title in so long because Barca was dominating. He won them a title. So there's always going to be that manager who's the one who breaks the curse and allows you to get over the hurdle. And then along comes Zidane, who then takes over, or Ancelotti actually, and then Zidane, who then take over and then take you to the stars, take you to the moon. There's going to be that manager who brings all the trophies, but there's always someone who doesn't get enough credit for building up that foundation. And I feel like Mourinho is the one who doesn't get that much credit for the mentality change he did at Real Madrid. Before he went to Real Madrid, the mentality was completely different. It was just Barca, and the Real Madrid players were feeling that they were inferior to Barca because everyone was talking about Barcelona as this was the best team we've ever seen. The Pep's Barca, this is the best team we've ever seen ever, So for him to come along and win a title against that Barcelona already changed the mentality of the players. So even though he didn't bring the trophies, even though he didn't bring everything, he won them a cup, he won them a league title, which broke that that mental barrier against Barca for them to feel like to stop feeling inferior to this Barcelona team, and then got them to the Champions League semi-finals 3 times in a row. And then a different manager comes in and that same mentality that's already been built up already, used it and took the team, like I said, to the moon, to the stars. So this is what Arteta's done. For me, Arteta has already changed the mentality of the team. He's already changed the core of the team. He's already weeded out all the players that he doesn't feel are good enough and brought in players who are young, quality, and with the right mentality who want to win. So he's already made a lot of changes already. So I can't, there's no negative to Arteta's time at Arsenal already. But as I mentioned already, this is going to be his 5th season. You could say 4.5, but this is going to be his 5th season already. Now, and he spent a lot of money already. I think around 500 mil, something like that. So now it's time for us to start judging him on the big trophies, the Premier League title, the Champions League trophies. Now this is what, from here on out, yeah, everything is, his legacy at Arsenal is already cemented already. For me, anyways, he's already cemented already for the positive he's done, because it's up where we were before to now is a massive jump. Because we're so far ahead of our rivals already. And it's just Man City that's ahead of us. So it's like the jump is already, the change is massive. He's already done a great job already. But now it's time for him to be judged on the big trophies, the Premier League trophy. This season, like I said already, we are good enough. We've got the players. We've got the style of play. We've got the system. We've got the core. We've got the squad to do it. I don't look at too many teams in Europe and say we're inferior to this team. I don't. I see us being good enough to be able to compete with these teams already. So with that said already, I don't see any issues as to why we shouldn't be able to compete in the Champions League with some of the best teams. And the same in the league title again. We competed with Man City for long periods of time until we bowled. I don't see why we shouldn't be able to compete with Man City again this time, actually win the title. So like I said already, from here on now, Arteta now needs to be judged on winning the Premier League, winning the Champions League. But yeah, that's my view on Arteta so far.